Aloha, Graham. Dave Lawrence, Hawaii Public Radio.
How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me all right?
Out here, nice weather, as usual.
Kind of
better than England.
Right.
I can say that.
There you go. No question about that.
Yeah.
Well, and you can hear me all right? We're good on the connection?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us about the new record, The Book. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
And before we get into the album, if we could, what's your experience with either visiting or performing in the state of Hawaii?
Oh, that was a long time ago. I mean, the last time I played there was probably in 1980-something, I think, because Alcatrazz, my old band, we used to play there, I think, once a year. I can't remember, it was a university or something of Hawaii.
Okay.
And it was always a great time. But the last time I went there, unfortunately, I got very ill. And there was something going on within the hotel. I got food poisoning. There were 11 people who were taken down.
Yikes.
And I happened to be one of them. So I'll never forget this. It was a terrible night for me. Because I was laying in bed all day and had to do a gig that night, obviously. And so I was throwing up and going to the bathroom constantly. Oh. So I had to take precautions to go on stage. I couldn't move, so I hung on to the microphone stand, I remember. And the audience were looking at me like, what's up with you? But it was a really good night. For some reason, the band came up to me and said, that's the best you've ever sung. Oh, really? Yeah, because I wasn't running around. But I tell you something, I would love to go back again, because we went to Hawaii, I think it was last year, on our way to somewhere. I think we're on our way to England or something. And we stopped over in Hawaii for about 2 days. And I said, I used to play here every year. I'd love to come back there and play again. I really would.
Well, hopefully we can work something out, and hopefully your next visit is a much more healthy one. I'm hoping.
Yeah,
for you.
It was kind of funny looking back at it because, well, you can imagine having to use the bathroom, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
And as well as being chucking up. Anyway, that was me and 10 other people that were unlucky enough to get sick at that hotel.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, you're back now with The Book. What a catchy bunch of tunes, too. Includes some ferocious guitar work. Conrado Pezzinato, am I pronouncing his name right?
Yeah, that's right. Near enough.
Brazilian guitar player, and you've also got Jimmy Waldo from Alcatrazz with you. If you can, talk about who's in the group and how they ended up in the Graham Bonnet Band.
Right, well, what happened, I was asked to go and do a jam at the Whiskey here in Los Angeles with Bethany Heavenstone, who is our bass player, as you know, and with Conrado, in fact, playing with Tommy Ray Brown, and the singer. And she and I did a couple of songs together, and at that time I was still going out as Alcatrazz with my old bandmates, and I sort of went, oh, this is rather good, because we were playing like Badfinger tunes and a Beatles song or something. We did a couple of different things that were different. I thought, this is refreshing. It's nice to play something different instead of like balls-to-the-wall vocals, everything, And it was so much fun. I said to Bethany, you ever thought about playing, sort of heavier music as well as this kind of more poppy kind of stuff, R&B stuff? I said, yeah, I'd like to try to do something. So Bethany and I got together and we started writing tunes. This is about 2 years ago. And so her and I worked together and we're going, okay, well, what do we do about the rest of the band? There's you and I. Okay, I'm playing guitar here. So I'd like to put the guitar down and let somebody else take over, And she said, well, what about Conrado? So we got in touch with Conrado and he came over and the three of us started working together. And that became a really good match. And so we worked together to, get the songs going in the right direction. Because I thought of doing it kind of like an acoustic thing. So I'd play acoustic guitar, and Conrad would play acoustic guitar, and Bethany would play acoustic bass. But we sort of thought, well, maybe this isn't going to fly. We played some songs to a couple of people and said, where's the hard edge things? And so we realized we had to get a drummer and make this a real band. So that's eventually what happened. Now we have Mark Zonder as our drummer, and Conrado, and Jimmy Waldo will be joining the band next year. He's on the road with his own band at the moment, New England. So next year I think Jimmy will actually come in with us full time. I'm not sure about that yet, but he played on the album, so he's really excited to do it if he can. But I think he will do it. Yeah.
And it's a real, it's for a guy who's been around as long as you have, for people who are fans of the hard rock side of your career, they'll be generously rewarded because, as you pointed out, it is a very hard rocking album. The drums, extremely prog rock sound with Mr. Zonder from Fate's Warning experience, and the guitar work, explosive. Another element of it is the keys. It really captures a retro sound associated with your career milestones. Can you talk about that being what seems like a critical element in developing the songs?
Well, Jimmy added his keyboard parts much later, and it's very Alcatrazzy or rainbowish. It's got that vibe. I think what's happened is he's brought in that retro sound, as you're saying, and I was worried about being too retro myself, the vocal thing. But I thought, well, I'm not going to do everything screaming and yelling. We'll keep it nice and sort of in between. There'll be some high notes and some mid-range stuff. And I think Jimmy just when he was offered to do that, we asked him to do this, he said, "Are you kidding?" Absolutely. He jumped on it. And he's got that kind of Alcatrazzy sound going there, and but it's mixed in with a more modern sort of stuff up front, because as I said, I was worried about my vocals being, I don't want to sing all that dated 1980s screaming and yelling stuff if I can help it. I want it to be balls to the wall kind of thing, and solid and, big sounding. So, I think he's added a great element, and I'm glad he came along because we were going to do the album without keys at all, But then when he added his touch, he brought the tracks alive, and I'm very appreciative of that, because it added a color that we didn't know we were missing, So thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, thanks to him, and it's very, I am assuming, will be rewarding for fans of Rainbow and Alcatrazz, as you noted. And when I was listening to the various tracks on the album, and there's already a 360 video for Into the Night, there's Dead Man Walking available as an audio video, and after listening to everything on the record, I guess the one that I connected to the most, and we'll see how this matches up in terms of the lyrics, was the song Strangest Day. And it was after losing my mother in 2013, it definitely gave me a different approach to everything about life. And one of those was just interpreting songs. And it just seemed like the lyrics to this one had maybe some sort of spiritual connection or awakening to things that are just beyond our physical vessel. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what it's about. Basically, it is that, because it's like a real experience that I had. It happened here in this house here. It was Bethany's birthday, and her mom was over, and she said, "Oh, let's all sing Happy Birthday." And suddenly, her mom and I broke into a completely different song, had nothing to do with Happy Birthday whatsoever. And I looked at her, I said, "What the?" And as I looked at her mom, I said, "What the fuck was that?" She said that with me, and then Bethany said, "What the hell was that?" And I said that with her. It's when you expect, when you're speaking to somebody, you know what they're going to say. I knew you were going to do that. It's like the deja vu thing sometimes. I've been here before. And that's basically what it is about. Have we been here before? Can we really see into each other's minds? And sometimes I really believe we can, but without concentrating on it. As I said, this is from a real experience that happened just a few months ago. It was the weirdest thing ever. And I think a lot of people can relate to that.
That's impressive. Well, I thought there was something a little bit more in there, and it was. And there's a line in there referencing. Are you referencing your own mother's passing in there? What is the lyric there that sounds?
Yeah, no, I wasn't, but I was talking to somebody else in the room about. This is an imaginary person.
Okay.
It's part of the story. Yeah. So, but I know where you're from. I know how old you are. You don't have to tell me. Some people can do that. It just happens, and we don't know why. You see these things on reports about people who have some kind of brain injury, and suddenly they can play the piano, or they speak in a different language.
Right.
It's incredible. We don't really know what we're all about, and that song just touches on the edge of it, really. But it means a lot. I'm glad you like that.
Yeah, no, it does mean a lot, and that's a great thing, and it's a great statement. We don't really know what we're all about, that's for sure.
No, we don't.
In this physical vessel. And on that note, I was hoping to explore some of your musical roots, because they are, for people who don't know, Graham has very deep roots, and they go way back. And before we hear about some of the celebs in your life, really, that helped that, I was hoping you could tell me, prior to, at 21, having a hit with the Marbles, what was it that drew you to music as a child, and in particular singing?
I think it was my family. My mom used to sing at parties and things like that. She was never a professional singer. My brother was a singer. He was in the choir, the church choir. And my uncles all played instruments. When we had our Christmas party, always there was trumpets and whatever else, and singing in harmony. My mom was a great influence on me, and of course my dad was thrilled that his wife and I would sing at Christmas in harmony and do little party songs and stuff. But it was always there. And my cousin Trevor Gordon, who was the other member of the Marbles, who were duos, if anybody knows, but there were two of us, and we were called the British Righteous Brothers back then. This is 1968, a long time ago. And so it was kind of always there, and I always sang since I was like 5 or 6 years old. I used to listen to the radio, and one of my favorite singers was Mario Lanza. And he was on the radio all the time in England back then because he had kind of hit records. He made movies and stuff. And he was an opera singer and was kind of snubbed by the operatic society because he was making commercial movies. And so he was never taken seriously. But he was, to me, he was one of the greatest opera singers I've ever heard. Marvelous singer, marvelous voice, power and range, And so I would listen to this stuff when I was a kid and go around the house trying to mimic his style of singing. And my mom and dad used to laugh. And, of course, Graham, God, your voice is loud. That's really good. And so if it amused my parents, of course, I followed that up and kept it going. And so if I could make my mom and dad laugh or enjoy what I was doing, I was proud of myself. And they encouraged me from the word go, really.
And from a Cub Scouts gig at 7 in church singing Paul Anka, which goes into what you're talking about, you end up, you're playing this gig with your cousin Trevor. Discuss how he ended up playing a big role in your life and that connection to the Bee Gees, how it worked out.
Yeah, well, Trevor was, when he was 13, he had a musical career over in Australia. And so did they, the Bee Gees. They grew up together. They went to school together. And Trevor played lead guitar on a lot of the Bee Gees' very early tracks, when they were still, young teens. And that's how I got into the business, really. It was through my cousin inviting me along in London to meet up with Barry Gibb and Robin and Morris. And we went over there, and we had our guitars, and we sat around singing Beach Boys songs and Stevie Wonder songs or whatever came into our heads, and Beatles tunes, obviously. And so Trevor gave me a big break because when Trevor went to see Barry and Robin and Morris, they wanted to record just with Trevor because they knew him very well from their Australian musical careers. Trevor had a TV show. They were guests on his show, and stuff like that. They were just always together, those guys. So anyway, they wanted to record with Trevor, and Trevor said to them, my cousin sings also, can I bring him over? And so I went over like the next day to meet up with Barry and Robert Stigwood, and who was their manager, at Barry's place, and started, singing away with the guitar. And Stigwood comes into the room and said, I think these two boys should make a record, Barry. What do you think? Do you have a song for them? And so it sounds silly, but that's kind of what happened. It sounds like something for a bad movie, doesn't it? But Barry had a song. He had a melody like Next Day, and we went into the studio and did a la-la version of what was to become Only One Woman, our first song. Trevor and I as the Marbles.
It's an incredible story, and it really, I ask you to tell it because it connects to the diversity that people may, from Rainbow, certainly, which was perhaps your most well-known work, people might associate you with and with your new record, for that matter, associate you with really hard-rocking stuff, but the truth is your roots have given you a lot of diversity, and your first solo album, to me, Graham, is a mind-blowing adventure. This is prior to Rainbow. It's after the Marbles. It's 77. And I was listening to it yesterday. I mean, some of the covers on this thing, the Shirelles, Will You Love Me Tomorrow, Dylan, which was the single, It's All Over Baby Blue, Al Green, Tired of Being Alone, David Bowie, It Ain't Easy, Hall & Oates, Good Night and Good Morning with orchestration, Elvis, Johnny Cash on there. Talk about how all of this diversity ended up on the record and why you picked such a really eclectic bunch of songs.
Well, I mean, that's who I am. I'm a singer. I like to sing, and I like to sing different things. And back then, I wasn't. Now I'm kind of limited. You've got to. If you're called a heavy rock singer, you're in that drawer forever. You're in that one little space. So you're a heavy rock singer, you're a heavy metal singer, whatever it may be. And that's not really me. I'm a singer, period. I sing everything. Those songs for that album were songs I liked, or somebody played to me, and I thought, oh, that's great. I'd like to do a version of that, you know. I loved Al Green stuff. I loved R&B. I love old pop songs. Just different kinds of music. And what I'd like to do is, again, an album like that with my band, but also make a heavy rock album too, but have an album that isn't in one particular style. And that is what I'm all about. You know, I'm a musician. I'm not a guy who wears the uniform of a heavy rock singer. Well, visually, apart from mentally or whatever, you know. It's not in me to just be in one little drawer.
Well, that's a perfect lead-in to probably maybe the greatest question anybody who's been a fan of yours for so many decades would have. When you talk about you don't wear the uniform of a typical rock singer, if one was to see you, whether it's from the cover of your first record, whether it was Singing with Rainbow, with Alcatrazz, throughout the years, you've always dressed so smartly, sometimes with a tie, a nice shirt. You look so presentable. You could be on your way to do a speech before politicians in Parliament. You could be singing a variety of music. What has influenced or informed the style which you have so meticulously maintained through the years?
Well, it was, I love 1950s, that era. You know, the 1950s was when my brother grew up, and my brother was my hero, my brother Tony. And he was a teddy boy. They called him teddy boys in England back then. You know, the rockabilly kind of look.
Right.
You know, the sweatback hair and the GT and all that. And I always wanted to look like my brother. I've got a photograph of him on the wall in the kitchen here in that era. And my brother, I lost him just over a year ago. And he was 74 years old, and it was Alzheimer's that took him. But he was my hero. And I've written a song for him, which is probably going to go on a new album somewhere, which was heartbreaking to write, but it was the hardest song I've ever written. But that era, to me, I love the street scene, the doo-wop guys, all that kind of stuff, the Platters, all that music from the 1950s, Buddy Holly, is what I grew up on, because my brother Tony would play that stuff. He'd bring something home every weekend when he finished work and say, listen to this, what do you think of this? Oh, yeah, what is that? Oh, this is Fats Domino. Wow. So that was the era. It's something that I don't know, but if it's because of my brother or what, I love that era of the harmony, vocal harmony groups, all that kind of thing, and the doo-wop sound, and the style they dressed in. It just, something about it. It was crossing over from being from being a teenager to an adult. Sometimes they wear Levi's with a suit jacket or something like that, because back then all the clothes were kind of all the same. But then, like Jimmy Dean came on, James Dean, and the Marlon Brando with the T-shirt and the jeans, then suddenly there was a new look. And I kind of glommed onto that a little bit. I thought, oh, yeah, I want to look like that. That's cool. Because I like that music from that time, 1950, blah, 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 whatever it may be. So why not go the full thing? So I had suits made in London that were made exactly in the 1950s style, and even down to shirts, where the cuffs on the shirt were exactly the same measurement as I would use back in 1950, whatever. I was being as authentic as I could. This is when I made my first solo album. But, yeah.
It's something
my heart, that era.
It's something that's been part of your life the whole time, and I just wanted you to know it's really, and I'm sure many people tell you they appreciate it, but it does make you stand out. You're not like some cookie cutter singer like a lot of people in these bands. You have your own look, and as we go to wrap it up with you, one final question. The record is nice because it also includes an extra CD filled with re-recordings of classic songs that you've been associated with, and I was going to play perhaps one of my favorite one from your catalog that got on the radio when I was just a little kid all night long. Was a gigantic song on the radio. Yeah. Still one of my favorites. Always makes me smile. If you can, share a story from the recording of that in the original era, or maybe just something from working with Rainbow that sticks out as like a huge highlight of your Rainbow years.
Oh, well, I remember we recorded quite a few tracks, and Richie came into the studio one night when I finished singing, and he picked up his acoustic, and he started playing something. He said to me, do you remember that song by Chris Farlowe? I said, what song is that? It's called Out of Time. Baby, 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 you're out of time. I said, oh, yeah. He said, well, I've got this riff. And he played da-da-da-da-da. And I thought, well, Smoke on the Water, isn't it? He said, no, wait a minute. That was Smoke on the Water. Let me play it again. So he played it again. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, well, think about that song, that Chris Farlowe song. It was written by Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. And I said, oh, yeah, okay. He said, well, think of a verse that's around that same kind of melody, and then take it where you may, ad-lib later on, bend the verse around. So it was based on an old Rolling Stones tune, and it eventually turned into All Night Long and Roger came along with some sort of tongue-in-cheek lyrics, which I thought were hysterical, about your brain and all that stuff. I thought it was so funny. And I love it. I love that song. It's fucking great.
And another great thing, just to say, as we say farewell to you, Cozy Powell, one of my very favorite drummers. In fact, he and John Bonham, my two very favorites. And I just think it's great that you were able to work alongside him, and both on solo records and in Rainbow. You really complemented his style well.
Yeah, well, he was like my brother, that guy. He interpreted the song the way it should be. One drummer there aren't many drummers that do this, but this drummer, Cozy, listened to the song. He played the song. He didn't play like tons of riffs and, fills or whatever and say, look at me, look at me, look at me. He listened to the song and he made the song better. And he is dear to my heart and always will be. I miss him terribly. I really do. Because now I play with drummers now and they say, I can play like Cozy Powell. Can you?
I love that.
And it's, he's the best.
That's a great tribute to him. Yes, he is. He's a fantastic drummer. God bless him.
Yeah, really.
And God bless you. Graham Bonnet, legendary voice of Rainbow, Alcatrazz, with Michael Schenker, so many sidemen. I could talk to you all day, but I respect you got a lot of these you got to get to. The album is The Book, and I hope you had fun talking. I did. Thank you very much, Dave. That was fantastic. Yeah. Nice questions. Fantastic, Graham. God bless you, man. All right, you're welcome, man. Stay safe. Okay, buddy. Thank you. That was nice. It was great talking to you. I give you a big hug, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk again someday. And maybe, man, I hope so. I hope we can get over there. Maybe in Hawaii, yeah. Aloha, brother. All right, bud. Okay, man. Take care. You too. Bye. Aloha. This is Graham Bonnet. You may remember me from Rainbow, Alcatrazz, and the Michael Schenker Group. Right now, you listen to me with my friend, Dave Lawrence. Thank you, Dave.